grew up in Aleppo, Syria, and I had a grandmother who was a Rebbitzin, a very righteous woman, and she put me to sleep, to bed, every night with the same story. A child never gets tired of a good story, and this is a story that I want to share with you. I can never tell it as well as my grandmother of blessed memory. Her story is that the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, went out of town to raise money for a worthy cause, and he stayed by a fellow by the name of Shalom. And Shalom used to make arak, a drink like schnapps, like whiskey, and Baal Shem Tov was there with the children, with his host, and he told stories and he sang songs. And they enjoyed his presence so much. And the next morning he says to his host, I have to move on to the next town so I could continue to raise funds for my worthy cause. And the host says, how could you leave me? We enjoyed having you so much. You were such an inspiration. Please stay another day. But he tells him, I need to raise money for the charity. And his host says, how much do you expect to raise? And the Baal Shem Tov says, I expect to raise $1,000. And he says, here, I'll give you $1,000, stay another day. And he stayed another day, again, songs and stories and inspiration. And the next day, he wanted to go on to the next town, and his host says again, please don't leave me. I'll give you another $1,000. And this continued on and on and on until the host had no money left. And now he tells him, please stay. And he says, I can't stay. I have to raise money for the charity. And now the host had no money, but he had a precious stone that he would always pawn off when he needed money. He pawned his precious stone, and he got enough money to keep the Baal Shem Tov for another week. And then when that was depleted, he asked the Baal Shem Tov, please stay. He says, only if you can give me $1,000 per day. You couldn't give him any more. And the Baal Shem Tov left. And when he left, the man was left without any money, without any backup where to get any money. And he had nothing to feed his children. He had many children. And he had no way to get the grapes to make the arak, the intoxicating drink that he made to make a living. And that night, he was crying and praying to Hashem, I have nothing, I need help. And as he was praying to Hashem, at midnight, a bunch of drunks started banging on his doors, Shalom, Shalom, give us arak. And Shalom says, leave me alone, I have no arak. I have nothing to make the arak with. And they won't leave him alone. He says, I want to daven, I want to pray, I need God's help, please leave me alone. They won't leave him alone. And one of the drunks tells him, don't you have the barrels you always make arak in? Put some water in it and give us something to drink. At least we'll have a taste of the arak. And he did. And they started throwing gold coins at him. Years passed, and the Baal Shem Tov came back to this town, and he says, he asked people, where is Shalom, the arak maker? Where does he live? They told him he moved. He moved to a completely new section in town, to the fanciest section in town. And he goes and he sees this beautiful mansion where Shalom now is living in, knocks on the door, and the butler comes, opens the door, and another servant comes. And in this beautiful mansion, I can never tell it, like my grandmother told it to me every night, this beautiful mansion with a staircase, and Shalom comes down, and he hears about Shem Tov is there, and he hugs him, and he kisses him, and he brings him into this fancy living room with silk drapes and a marble floor. And now Shalom is a rich man now, and he's not shy like he was years back. And he says to the Baal Shem Tov, before we talk about anything else, how do you take the last dollar of a poor man? Had nothing. And you insisted on $1,000 a day. And Baal Shem Tov smiled. He said, I saw in heaven, he had divine inspiration in Baal Shem Tov, I saw in heaven that you're meant to be very wealthy. The problem you had was you always said, if I don't have enough money, I got this precious stone, I could depend on it. This was a crutch that you had, and I had to take it away from you. I had to take the stone away from you so you could depend on God and not on that stone. And that's how you became rich, because I took away the crutch and you depended on God. And a key to success in life is to depend on God and to count on God and not on anything else, not on anything else. The Holy Chavetz Chaim says, Tamu v'r'u ki toiv Hashem. Taste and see God is delicious. There's a pasuk in the Tehillim that says that, Ashrei hagever yechsabo, and I'm quoting from the Chavetz Chaim. Just like you taste something in your mouth, you taste what it tastes like. Also, if a person has really the midas habitochen, the trait of reliance on Hashem, you know the greatness of Hashem. It says, Tenu oiz lelokim. The pasuk says, give strength to Almighty. It's an awesome pasuk. Me, little me, give strength to the Almighty, because Hashem wants to give me. And if I count on me, He gives me. And if I count on myself, then He says, go see what you could do. I once had a lady in my community in Deal, New Jersey, who came to me and it said that she has to support 3 children. She was a single mother, and she didn't know what to do. People were advising her to go sell real estate. Others were advising her to go into life insurance, and she didn't know what to do. And she asked me, what do I think? And I told her, I don't know too much about real estate. I don't know too much about life insurance, but I do know that if you talk to Hashem, not just to daven, not just to pray, but talk to Hashem and count on Him, rely on Him, have bitochen in Him, He will guide you. She called me back a while later, and she said, God answered me. I said, tell me exactly what happened. She tells me she was driving on Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn, and on Ocean Parkway, she got her answer to what she davened for. She says, I was praying to God. You don't just pray during Shemona Esrei. So she was praying to Hashem, answer me, should I go into life insurance or should I go into real estate? And she said, on Ocean Parkway, I got my answer. A white van changed lanes right in front of me, and the answer was right on the license plate. It said, life insurance. And she said that I said to Hashem at that time that if He answered me in such a way, from now on I'm going to keep Shabbos. So Hashem helps those who count on Him. Even if a person was not fully observant, and she became fully observant as a result of that experience. Taste and see Hashem is delicious. You count on Him, He will answer you. There's a Gemara that says, Gemara Nedarim Daf Nun, that Rabbi Kiva, the holy Rabbi Kiva, and his students needed money for charity. And the Gemara says in the Nedarim, page Nun, page 50, they went to a Roman noble lady, and they asked to borrow money. And so she told them, I will let you borrow money, and you should be the borrower, and the guarantor will be Hashem and the sea. She lived by the sea. So now came time to pay, and Rabbi Kiva was not well, and the noble lady went to the sea, to the Mediterranean, and she said, and I'm quoting, Rabbeinu Shalom, Master of the world, you know that Rabbi Kiva is not feeling well, and he can't pay me. But you are the guarantor, and the sea is the guarantor. At that time, the daughter of the Caesar became mentally not well, and she took a treasure box out of her father's treasury, the Caesar's treasury, and threw it into the sea. And the sea delivered the treasure box to the feet of the noble lady. She took the treasure box and she went. Rabbi Akiva got better. A while later, he came back to pay her, and she told him, I don't need the money. she says, I went back to the guarantor, and the guarantor paid me. And she says, not only he paid me, but he gave me extra, and here's a change. So you see from the Gemara that if a person counts, even on a sea, even if you count on something that is not a person, that inanimate object, that thing delivers. So how much more so that if a person counts on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you count on Hashem, Hashem delivers. We say every day in Shemona Esrei, there's a bracha, reward those who really count on you, and make us one of them to really count on you. It's proper to stop during that bracha and talk to Hashem. You can talk to him in English. Give me that reliance. Give me that positive thinking that I should count on you. I should count on you to be able to succeed in life, physically and spiritually. A person says, I like to become more observant. I like to have peace of mind. I like not to speak lashon hara. I like to control my anger. God could do anything, and if we connect to Hashem, we count on Him, Hashem comes through. If the sea comes through, how much more so Hashem comes through. The letters of worry, daiga, is Dalet, Aleph, Gimel, Hey. Has every letter in the Hebrew alphabet except base, because base is betochen. If you have betochen, if you rely on Hashem, there's no daiga, there's no worries. There's no worries. The Gra says that the Gra of Vilna says that if a person looks at the first letter of the 5 books of Moshe Rabbeinu of the Chumash, the first letter is Beis. Beis is B'tochen. He says that the Torah was given to the Jewish people, so we should have B'tochen, that we should rely on Hashem. There's a Gemara in Tainus. The Gemara says there was a girl who was lost in the desert and she fell in the pit, and she's calling and yelling for help, and a fellow passes by and he sees there's a beautiful girl in the pit, and she asks him, please save my life, and he tells her, I will take you out of the pit on a condition you marry me. She had no choice. She says, okay. And he says to her, he says, swear that you're going to marry me. She swore, and who were the witnesses? There was a weasel that was passing by and the pit. They said the 2 witnesses would be the weasel and the pit. Pulled her out of the pit. She went to her village, and he went to his town, and any marriage proposal that was made to her, she did not accept it because she swore to marry this fellow. This fellow was not as nice as she was, and he found another girl, married her, and had 2 children. And then one of the children was bitten by a weasel and died, and the other one fell into a pit and died. And his wife asked him, what's going on? This is not normal. And he told her the story. He said, I promised this girl to marry her, and I didn't. She told him, you have to divorce me and marry her. So you see, the Chazal tell us, our rabbis tell us, if one who counted on a weasel and a pit, they deliver, how much more so if we count on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we count on Hashem. And we look up to Hashem and we say to Him, I count on you, you created me, you made me, you love me, I love you, I'm counting on you. It's the strongest force in the world. And it's not just a way of getting something. B'tochen and reliance on God is not just a way of getting something, but it's a way of life. It's a life of peace and tranquility, of simcha. As we say in the davening Shabbos afternoon, menuchas ava undova, menuchas shalom ashket v'betach, menuchas shlema she'ata reitzah, complete tranquility, serenity, and relaxation. And a life without worry is a life knowing that there's a God in the world, and that's the only thing that exists. En oid malevada, there's nothing besides Hashem. And one who has betochen is not only one who has a theoretical belief in God, but it's one who's living with God all the time. Of course, when we live with God all the time, we want to do what He wants. We want to be careful with our tongues. We want to be careful with what we do and how we treat each other. And then God in heaven will get us closer and closer to Him. And betochen is just not a way of getting things, but a way of living. We should all, every day when we say this bracha in Shemona Esrei and davening, ask Hashem, I want to live with you. Yishakenim and Eshika Espihu Shlomo Melech says in Shir Hashirim, I want to kiss God on the lips. It's a way of intimacy and closeness to God, and a way of living with God. We deserve it, you deserve it, and it's something to work on every day and to strengthen it every day. And one who has bitachon has a different level of life, a life that is delicious, a life that's tranquil, a life that is secure. Be'ez Hashem, with Hashem's help, all of us should reach that level of bitachon. Amen.